guys, what's going on? I'm Tim along with KJ and Justin. We are up to day 9, and the first team that I think we've done that most people consider a legitimate contender is the Miami Marlins. Coming off a season last year where they finished, I believe, in 4th place. I'll pull up the exact standings in just a second. But I think that the point was that the Marlins last year, they finished in last place, my bad. They went 72-90 last year. But in the offseason, they made some huge moves, and as we go through the lineup, we'll get to all those huge moves. We'll start at catcher. Their starting catcher is John Buck, who spent most of his career with the Royals. Last year, after spending one season where he hit 20 home runs at a career year with the Blue Jays, last year in 140 games, hit 227 with 16 home runs and 57 RBIs. And really everything was perfect for him last season except for the 227 average, which he's going to need to get up. Although throughout his career, with the exception of 2010, he's always, where he hit 281, he's always hit below 280.
Yeah, he's going to have to pull up his average this year, but he's going to be a key for this team. They're going to need him the whole season at the catching position. He's going to be the workhorse there. But he brings some power. He's going to get you some home runs, and he's going to rack in some RBIs with the power that he has.
A really solid 6-hole type of hitter. He's going to give you the power. He's going to give you. He really does need to bring his average up, but he is a solid number 6 hitter for this team. He does bring the power, and that's really what you're going to get out of him this year. Backing him up, I think he has not. It's not the solid type of backup you want to have behind John Buck. His last name is Hayes. That's while my page is loading.
Yeah,
you guys pick over from there.
Yeah, Brett Hayes will be the backup, and then last year he had 231 with 5 home runs and 16 RBIs. So he's not a great player, but
more of an average type of
he's
hitter.
An average hitter, not like he hits for out, like he's an average player. But he'll get the job done once in a while for them, as long as they don't rely on him on too much of a consistent basis.
Yeah, he'll give you a decent average. I mean, for a backup anyway, he's going to get you some runs. He's going to give Buck some rest during the season when he needs a game off or two. But really, this guy's an average guy. He's not going to do too much for you. He's not going to light a spark like you would want.
And stick around, because at the end of this video, we'll talk about these new Marlins uniforms and their new stadium too, which that looks really pretty interesting. Over at first base, then, you have Gabby Sanchez, who will be the starter, a guy who's been pretty solid in his first 2 full seasons up in the major leagues. He'll give you an average right around 270, about 20 home runs, and 80 RBIs. So he's done a nice job for them in his first few seasons there.
Yeah, he's going to give you some power. He's going to give you home runs, a lot of RBIs. He's going to get a lot of extra base hits. He had 35 two-baggers last year, and he's going to hit you for a decent average around 270. So this guy's he has some power, and he's going to rack in some runs and help you out on the offensive side.
He's going to give you the power, like KJ already said. He is destined to be that type of 25 home run type of guy, and I'll give him 25 home runs this year. I have a lot of expectations around Gabby Sanchez. He is going to hit 25 home runs this year, I swear.
Yeah, I could see him hitting 25 because a lot of pressure's off him in the lineup with the additions that they've made, and then I think a lot of guys in that lineup had down years last year that probably aren't going to this year. And then you have guys like Mike Stanton who will just continue to get better. And backing him up moving over to second base, backing him up at first base, Logan Morrison's technically listed, but he also starts in the outfield. So they do have some questions at their first base backup position. Over at second base, Omar Infante, who was acquired last offseason during the Dan Uggla trade. Last season in his first year there, he had 276 with 7 home runs and 49 RBIs. He's had seasons where, in like 2010, where he had 321, 8 home runs, 47 RBIs. He was an all-star that year. Mostly was coming off the bench. So he's a bit above average, but not much more than average.
Yeah, he's not gonna bring a lot of power to the table. He's not gonna hit you a ton of home runs, but he's gonna be able to be that number 1 guy at your second base spot. He's going to give you a decent average, and if he can pull out of his hat what he did back in 2010, he'll give you a great average, a lot of extra base hits, and he'll do good for you.
What Omar Infante really brings to the plate, this guy is an average type of hitter. He does give you home runs from time to time. It's more of a on-base type of deal with Omar Infante. He can really get on the base. He's a type of speed type of second baseman, so he's pretty dangerous on the base path, and it's also a really great accusation with him at second base because this team has a lot of great power hitters on this team. Who Jose Reyes and Hanley Ramirez are mixed power. They can give you some power, not a whole lot, but get him on base. He's a speed. He can run around the bases very fast, so he's also a great acquirement to that team.
Donnie Murphy will be the backup at second base. Last year in 36 games for the Marlins, he hit 185. But, I mean, in 29 games the season before, he hit 318. So he is a decent backup, and, I mean, there's not a whole lot else to expect out of Donnie Murphy. We move over to shortstop. This is one of the interesting positions. Jose Reyes, who cut his dreadlocks this offseason, he comes in coming off a career season with the Mets in which he won the batting title, hit .337 with 7 home runs, 44 RBIs. He can steal about 40 to 60 bases. I mean, hell, he stole 78 bases in 2007. He is one of the fastest guys in the major leagues, really a great fielder. All around, he's a tremendous player. The only issue he has is he's only played 160 games a few times in his career, and the last time he really even got even close to playing the full 162 is in 2008 when he played 159. I mean, last year he played 126. If they're going to be successful, he is going to have to be healthy for a majority of the year because they're in a division that has gotten a lot better, and they're in a National League that's gotten a lot better, and I think that they certainly are a contender.
Yeah, Jose Reyes is definitely the biggest piece in this offseason, I think, that they brought in. He hits a great average. He's obviously always a lot of time on the bases, and when he's on the bases, he can steal. If he hits the ball, he can turn a double into a triple where most guys can't, and he's going to get you a lot of extra base hits. He's going to hit home runs. He has power, but he doesn't have a ton of power. He's not going to hit a home run every couple of games, but he's going to get the job done on the offensive side, and he's a huge part to this team. They really need him to come up big this year.
Yeah, and he is a traditional leadoff hitter, going off how he hit last season because he hits for average and he can steal bases. And when you have guys hitting 3-4 like Mike Stanton, Hanley Ramirez, Logan Morrison, you have a pretty solid overall lineup that is going to allow him. If you have Jose Reyes lead off and Omar Infante hit second, then you're in a pretty good situation, and maybe even Emilio Bonifacio could potentially fill that role too. So you're in a good situation.
Jose Reyes, he really needs to get healthy. I mean, this guy can be really something if he's healthy. So I can expect this year to be 100%, and he's going to be a big factor in this roster, and he's going to help this team go into the playoffs. So I can really see Jose Reyes hitting maybe 330, maybe 329, somewhere in that area. Nothing really to be worried about him, but he just has to stay healthy.
Backing him up and also starting in center field is Emilio Bonifacio, a natural shortstop, but he's played a lot of outfield in the last few seasons, so we'll get to him in a little bit. Hanley Ramirez, also a natural shortstop, and he has made it clear he isn't exactly thrilled about moving to third base. This is the one thing I'm worried about. Hanley Ramirez in only 92 games last year hit .243 with 10 home runs and 45 RBIs. Really, if I trust Hanley Ramirez, I would just throw that season out and say it was a fluke because that's what I think it was. But that being said, Hanley Ramirez has kind of become a head case, and hopefully he's able to put this aside and say, we have a chance to win here for 3 or 4 seasons at least, and I'm just going to be a third baseman for those seasons. Even though I could have been a solid shortstop, I'm going to transition over to third, take one for the team, and focus more on the hitting. Where he hit .342 in 2009. He had 300 4 times in his career. He's one of the best all-around players in the game when he's able to stay healthy because he can hit for such a high average. He'll hit about 30 home runs, and he can field really well too. And moving over to third base, I mean, it's not as easy as you would think moving from shortstop to third base, but once he gets it down the way A-Rod did when he moved to third base, he's going to be probably the best fielding third baseman in the MLB.
Yeah, I think Hanley Ramirez is a beast. I don't think he's going to have a problem as to changing from shortstop to third base as a fielder, but I think sometimes he has an attitude, and that's a problem with him. But he's definitely a great player. He hits for a great average. I think last year, like you said, Tim, it was a fluke. He only played 92 games. He hit for an awful average for his standards anyway. But he's going to get you a lot of extra base hits. He's going to hit a lot of home runs. He's going to around 30, maybe up or under a little bit. But he's going to rack in a lot of RBIs, especially in the spot that he's going to be in this lineup. is going to have a lot of guys on base, a lot, with Jose and Bonifacio in front of him. He'll rock in a lot of runs this year.
Now, I see Hanley Ramirez. He is going to be playing a lot of great defensive baseball, but I do see a lot of chemistry between him and Jose Reyes. They actually report to camp here in 3 days, and these guys, this is just a great infield. Hanley Ramirez, he is going to give you a power time to time. He's going to hit you some home runs, but last year he really didn't because due to the problems that he had with the manager, he kicked the ball out and out in the left field. I mean, I can really see him having a totally different season this year, and I do have this guy hitting over 15 home runs. He does have the power for it. He showed it before, and I really do expect him to have a really great season this year.
Yeah, and the way that you were mentioning was actually 2 years ago, but he did not have a great success with the manager last year either. Overall, he needs to just get focused here. Backing him up at third base is a guy who, when he's going well, is one of the best utility men in the game, Greg Dobbs. Last year, after having a few down years with the Phillies, he had some success there early in his time there. Hit 275 with 8 home runs and 49 RBIs and 134 at-bats. So Greg Dobbs is one of the best backups in the MLB.
Yeah, I agree. And we know Greg Dobbs pretty well because he was in Philly for a while. But he's going to be a good backup. He's a good utility guy, like you said. And he's gonna give your guys some rest. He's going to be a great fill-in guy because he's not a slouch at any point. He can hit the ball pretty well, and he can field pretty well.
Yeah, and now we go over to the Marlins outfield, which is really, really deep, I guess is a way to put it, because you have a former Rookie of the Year, like 2 or 3 seasons ago, was a backup now. I mean, Logan Morrison, let's start with him in left field. He had a lot of questions last year. Most of you guys know him because he's on Twitter 24/7. In his rookie season, he had 283 with 2 home runs, and then last year he hit 23 home runs, 72 RBIs, hit 247, and then I believe he got sent down to the minor leagues and had some huge issue with the Marlins. Apparently, everything's been worked out. He changed his number this year. They unretired the number 5 for him, so Logan Morrison will be wearing that. He's still pretty young, so we don't necessarily know what to expect. I would expect him to hit at a level around like 280 and 25 home runs.
Yeah, I don't all know what happened last year with why he got sent down and everything, like you said, Tim. But he didn't hit for a great average last year. He hit around 250. It's not that great, but he showed that he definitely has power. He's going to rack in RBIs. He's going to hit around 25 home runs, and he's going to get the job done. He's going to hit deep balls, and he's going to get you a lot of runs.
He plays a big pivotal role in that outfield, so I do expect him to hit a lot of home runs. I'd say about 25, or I would at least have an expectation of a Logan Morrison hitting about 25 home runs, because last year he really proved it, and I can really see him bring that average up to maybe 275 to 280. He really has what it takes to be that type of hitter. In 2010, he hit for 283, but that was only in 62 games. Very talented player, and I just hope he has a great season.
Backing him up is Brian Peterson, who in really his most of his experience last year, he did get some time in 2010, but did awful there. 265 last year, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs. He's a decent piece off the bench, but Logan Morrison's going to play there 24 games out of 25, so Peterson's not going to see a ton of time. Emilio Bonifacio in center field last year at 296, 5 home runs, 36 RBIs. He's extremely fast. He stole 40 bases last year. He is the type of guy that sets a table. If you have him or him at like second after Jose Reyes, that could be a lethal combination. Or even if you have Jose Reyes bat first, Omar Infante bat second, you have guys like Ramirez and Stanton hit them in, and then you start it all over with batting Bonifacio sixth and having a guy like Buck or even Logan Morrison or Gabby Sanchez hit right after him. That's what's dangerous about this Marlins lineup, is they almost have like 2 tiers of a lineup all into one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's dangerous on the base path, and then he's going to steal bases. He's going to be able to turn a single into a double and a double into a triple sometimes. He just has those legs. You look at him and you go, wow, he's that fast. He's like Jose Reyes type fast, and he's gonna get you some runs, and he's gonna bat in some home runs, not a ton, but he's gonna get the job done offensively. And what pitchers worry about with this guy, he's gonna steal bags. That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, Bonifacio is a beast overall. I mean, he plays great defensive baseball. He can make catches in the outfield. He jumps off the wall, And I really see this guy as one of the top contenders for being like one of those stolen base type of leaders in the majors. So I don't have any expectations. I think he's going to pick up from what he left off last year. I have him playing over 155 games, 152 games he played last year, but I have a pickup from last year from Emilio Bonifacio.
Backing him up in center field, and with actually a pretty good chance to take over that spot if he's able to regain his form, is Chris Coghlan, a natural left fielder. Coghlan, the last 2 seasons, has struggled to stay healthy. He had 268 with 5 home runs and 28 RBIs. In 2010, 2011, he had 230 with 5 home runs and 22 RBIs. But in 128 games in 2009, he had 321, 9 home runs, 47 RBIs, won the Rookie of the Year that year, looked like one of the brightest young pieces in the MLB, and health has really killed him this year. If he's able to get back on track, then either they have a nice piece to trade with if they decide that they need another pitcher, or they have a nice piece to package if they want to go out and get a better outfielder, or he could ultimately take over for Emilio Bonifacio or Logan Morrison if one of those type of deals does not work out.
Yeah. Saying that this guy's your backup is really something good to have him on the bench for. He's a great outfielder, and if he could come back into form what he did in 2009, I mean, you almost have to give him the starting spot. I don't know how you can't. He's really going to fight for it, I think, and he's a great outfielder. I think if he can do what he did a couple years ago, he'll be just fine, though.
And then in right field, you have Mike Stanton, who is one of the best pure young power hitters in the game. Last year, 150 games, hit 262 with 34 home runs and 87 RBIs. I think that this is going to be the year where Mike Stanton hits 40 home runs and really turns a lot of heads. He can steal a moderate amount of bases, 5 to 10. I don't know if he's necessarily an MVP candidate. He does field pretty well in right field, but the average isn't always going to be there. But he is, Adam Dunn type power. And in a good way. A lot of people think of that as a negative thing. He's not going to strike out as much, and he's going to have a lower or a higher average. But he has that type of pure power where he can just crush every pitch that you throw out of the park.
I think Mike Stanton is just a straight-up beast. He's going to rack in, I think you said, around 40 home runs. He's going to be in that range, maybe. I'm thinking maybe more like 42. He's going to get a lot of home runs this season, rack in a lot of RBIs. He's only going to steal a couple of bags. He's not that fast. He's just a beast, though, with the bat. I don't know how to put it any other way. He's going to get you a lot of home runs, and he's going to give you a decent average for a beast that he is.
Absolutely, man. This is also a guy where you also want to look at where he can be in the run for MVP voting. This guy over the past 2 years has racked up a combined total of 56 home runs, and I guarantee you he's going to continue what he did last year. This is a year where this guy will be in the running for MVP because this guy brings the power, he brings the average, and it's just a loss of words. This guy is just a monster all around.
Backing him up in right field, you have Scott Cousins, who's probably most famous for essentially killing Buster Posey last year, but he is a pretty decent backup outfielder. He can give you, he's going to be used in pinch running situations a lot for the most part. We go to the rotation now, where there's a lot of questions, but there's also a lot of promise too. We start with Josh Johnson, who before last season, before getting injured, he looked like he was going to be in the running for Cy Young. 2 seasons ago, he went 11-6 with a 2.30 ERA. 3 years ago, he went 15-5 with a 3.23 ERA. Even back in 2006, he went 12-7 with a 3.10 ERA. When he's able to stay healthy, he's one of the top 10, maybe even 5 pitchers in the game. And now that he's going to have a better offense around him, I think that Josh Johnson is one of the legitimate aces in the game, and he has some nice guys backing him up in the rotation to take some pressure off him.
Yeah, Josh Johnson's a beast. He's just ridiculous. I think if he can post the same ERA he did last year before he got hurt and get the wins, and he's just going to be one of the best pitchers in the MLB. There's no way around saying it. He has a lot of relief off him with his rotation being kind of rebuilt this season, this offseason. So I think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to have somewhere around 15 wins. He's going to make a run maybe for Cy Young, and he's going to do a great job this season.
If he stays healthy, this guy is obviously an over 15 win guy. It's just the injuries have just been really affecting him. So I think he's going to come into this season very healthy. He's ready to play baseball. He says he's healthy. And I do have him winning 17 games this year. He's totally capable of getting it. The closest he got to 17 wins in 2009 when he just went off with a 3.23 ERA. He was 15-5 with I think he had 191 strikeouts that year. This guy's a beast, though. If he's healthy, this guy can be a monster and an impossible Cy Young candidate.
And I forgot to mention they hired Ozzie Guillen as their manager. We'll talk more about that at the end. At the number 2 spot, I have a guy, and I'm going to be straight up honest with you. They signed him to a 4-year, $58 million deal. I think they overpaid, and I think he's an overrated pitcher. Mark Burley. He gets the job done for the most part, with the exception of 2010, who'll give you an ERA under 4. But to pay a guy $12 million a year to have like an ERA around 3.6, I just really think he's kind of overrated. He'll give you a decent amount of wins. He can hopefully keep the ERA below like 3.80 or so, but for the most part what's made him successful is the fact that he just stays healthy and throws a lot of innings. But I don't think he's as great a pitcher as people are thinking.
Yeah, I agree to an extent, but I think that Burley's going to get the job done this season. I think he's coming into a new town. I mean, he's with Chicago since 2000. He's been the only team he's with. So I think he's coming to a new team. There's going to be new energy. I think it's going to help him out with his veteran status. I think it'll help him with his energy, and he's going to be another workhorse on this team, being right behind Josh Johnson. It also takes some pressure off of himself because he's not the ace or anything. But I think he's going to get you somewhere around 14 wins, and he's going to have a decent ERA. I don't think it's going to be anything spectacular. You're not going to hear it on ESPN and all these big channels, but he's definitely going to get the job done and get you some wins and a decent ERA.
KJ really just filled that up pretty much. Mark Burley does give you a great amount of innings, 205 last year. He's solid. He can get at you 200-plus innings in a season. This year, I have him at 15 wins and maybe 10 or 9 losses this year. There are some days, some pitching days where he does have that bad type of start. But pretty much, he's a pretty solid number 2, and he does fill in a big void for this team. There's no Chris Volstad this year. He's going to be filling in for Volstad. So it's a better improvement other than Volstad, Mark Burley. So
yeah, and Chris Volstad obviously traded away to was it the Padres?
The Cubs.
The Cubs, yeah, that was it.
For Carlos Zambrano.
Yeah, it was one of the teams. We'll get to Zambrano in a minute. Ricky Nolasco is a guy at number 3 that I've been waiting to break out for a few years. Since he went 15-8 with the 3.52 ERA. Since then, he's had an ERA 5.06, 4.51, and 4.67. He'll throw a decent amount of innings, but I don't really know what to expect out of him this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to, if he can do back what he did back in 2008, he'll do just fine. Post a decent ERA and get around 15 wins again this season. I think his big piece of this rotation and being in the 3 spot, he's going to help a lot.
I have him at 13 wins this year. He's going to get close to 15, but I don't really say he's going to hit 15. He does give you a solid 200 innings pitched in the season, just like Mark Burley does. And I did have a lot of expectations for him going into last year. He did put some decent numbers up, but yet there was not a lot of run support backing him up. And I think with all this new power in this lineup and there's a lot of average hitters, that he's going to get a lot of backup and run support. So I have Ricky Nolasco having a solid 13-win season.
At the number 4 spot, you have a guy who I actually think should be the number 2 starter in this rotation. He's thrown a no-hitter in his career already, and he's still pretty young. That is Anibal Sanchez. Since kind of having some health issues early in his career, the last 2 or 3 seasons, he's really figured it out, stayed healthy. He'll give you around 200 innings. Hopefully he can go over that. He's normally around 195 innings. Hopefully he can go over that plateau for the first time this season. But he'll win you about 14 games and have an ERA around 3.5, so it's pretty much similar to what Mark Burley does, except he doesn't get the credit.
Yeah, I agree. I think Anibal Sanchez, he's pretty young and he's a great pitcher. I think he posted a pretty good ERA through his career. He's done a pretty well job with that. He's been around 500 winner, if not a little under, but I think that's different because you have a whole new team this year. I think he's going to have a little bit different of support, and he's going to have the confidence that he can win these games and not worry about giving up a run and losing. I think he's going to do a good job this year. Like you said, I think the 2, 3, 4 spots are really, you could put anybody in that order, and there's an argument for any of it. But I think him being in the 4 spot's fair, and if he pushes for the 2 or 3 spot, I wouldn't be surprised.
He is capable of getting that number 3 spot, but where he's currently at right now as the number 4 guy, I think he should actually switch places with Nolasco. I think Nolasco could be a solid number 4, but Anibal Sanchez does have what it takes to be that number 3 starter. So he does give you nice innings at times. He was 8-9 last year with a 3.67 ERA. That also revolves around the run support that the Marlins did poorly on last year. But like I said, with this new power team, there's going to be a lot of run support behind these pitchers.
Then at the number 5 spot, you have Big Z, Big Head Case, Carlos Zambrano. And while he's kind of had fallen off over the last few seasons, what you'll notice is he's had an ERA, with the exception of last year, under 4 every season. Even 2 years ago, he finished real hot at an ERA of 3.33. If he gives you an ERA under 4, what happened is he got traded and the Cubs picked up about 4/5 of his salary for this season. If he can be your number 5 starter and give you a record like 9-7 with a 3.77 ERA like he did in 2009, it's good enough to be your number 5 starter in a division. And he's coming over, leaving a division that had Albert Pujols, Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun, and coming to a division where really the Phillies lineup has fallen off, not very good anymore. The Mets lineup's not very good, losing Jose Reyes and potentially David Wright at midseason this year. The Nationals have a lot of questions. They look like they have a bright future, but you don't know. And the Braves are more of a pitching team. So it's really a pitching-balanced, a pitching-led division, and that might help Carlos Zambrano.
Yeah, Zambrano's on the tip end of his career, I believe. He's also just like Burley. He's coming from another city he's been his whole career, and he's coming with new energy and new hopes, new team. I think that if he can push what he did back in 2009, around 9-7, just a 3.77 ERA, he'll do just fine. He's just basically a good fit starter. I mean, you can't say this guy's not a good fit starter. He's not. I don't think he's going to push for a 4, 3, or 2 spot. He's going to be content at 5. And do just fine.
Hopefully he understands that he is a 5th starter, doesn't try and make any big issues, because he's a 5th starter, so there really shouldn't be any controversy. But him and Ozzie Guillen together could very well make one.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Alright, so you guys pretty much covered over Carlos Zambrano. There's also 3 other pitchers trying to compete for that number 5 hole: Wade LeBlanc, Brad Hand, and Anibal Sanchez. I think that's what his name is. But do you guys think LeBlanc, Brad Hand, and Sanabia can outduel Zambrano?
Not at least at the season's beginning. I think that the rotation, the way that they have it right now, is pretty much going to be how it is.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they're going to make a... I mean, they're obviously going to try to make a push, but I don't think they're going to be able to take that 5 spot away from Zambrano. I think Zambrano is going to have a decent season.